Welcome to Mount Airy. We are a small town of 10,000 people, but we have a lot more visitors every year. We're located in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're known for being Mayberry, but we really are so much more.
Downtown is the heart of our tourism industry in Mount Airy. It lures the tourist here. It's the heart of the Mayberry attractions. It's the heart of what brings visitors to our area, gets them to stay here overnight, and is a huge economic driver to the tourism industry. Not only does it drive sales tax in our area, the downtown is crucial for the survival of our town and the future of our town.
Typically, your downtown is the identity of your community because it's the central gathering place. It's where our history is. It is where commerce can be done. It's where you can live. And if the downtown is our identity, then we need to invest in things that make it that vibrant community.
People want to be downtown. They don't really necessarily want to go to strip malls or standalone businesses out on the highway. They want to be in dense areas and communities where they can be around people.
Spencer Corporation owned about 9.1 acres in this area. At their height of their business, they had 2,200 employees. They manufactured Spencer's baby clothes. It was just sad that our textile industry couldn't stand the storm and started going offshore with different things, and it's the same story everywhere you go. So we did have the problems that everybody's had. And so our mission here is to overcome those problems and to see what we can do going forward.
Oh gosh, people have such a strong emotional connection to the Spencer site. If you don't have a family member that worked there, you know somebody that worked there. And each time we have talked about the Spencer's project with the public or posted about it online, we get someone sharing a personal story. For example, there's this great set of spiral stairs where the soon-to-be lobby of the hotel will be, and they'll remain there. They're beautiful architectural feature, and we posted a photo of it recently and had so many people say, "Oh, I walked down those stairs hundreds of times. What great memories, so glad to see it preserved." People have an emotional connection to that because they spent their working lives there. We were on a site tour just earlier this week, and the general contractor was inside, and he said, "My father used to manage this plant." And we had no idea. So even the general contractor has this emotional connection to the project. And I think people want to make former generations proud. People want to be involved in this project to honor the people that worked there. So we plan to do that not only by preserving the historic building, by using materials from within the building to tell the story of what it was and the people that worked there through public art in and around the site. So it'll be really cool to see when it's done. And I hope that the people that have such a strong emotional connection to it will feel proud.
Our town had first started losing our mills, and in a 10-year period, really about a 5 or 6 year period, we lost 10,000 jobs. And there were 2,000 jobs lost in the Spencer's property was sitting on, 1,000 to 1,500 jobs next door at the Renfro hosiery mill. So just in the downtown alone, we lost 3,500 jobs in a really brief period of time. So we had all these vacant properties, and I began to learn or try to study about the redevelopment process on historic buildings, all the complications with it, how federal and state tax credits have implications for downtown historic redevelopments, how historic redevelopment is such an efficient type of construction for communities, because there's you have all this existing product in place and you just have to redevelop it in an appropriate manner, compliant with the National Park Service guidelines. So it just looked like everybody was going to win. And I would say that the economics of historic redevelopment, when paired with the tax credits, you realize the economics do work both for the developer, They work for the community, they work for the town that's receiving property tax, they work for the state that's receiving sales tax and payroll tax. So it's a winning formula. And once I figured that out, we tried a couple of small projects, and then of course started on some of the larger ones like we're standing in now. But our first step to stabilize our downtown was to build residential up around our downtown. We had vacant mills downtown, and the largest one downtown was rent for a hosier mill. It was 120,000 feet or so. Massive building, terrible condition. So we tackled that project, and it was successful, turned it into condominiums. I guess that was the one that was a big catalyst project for the town because it was so large. And it stabilized one entire corner of the downtown, and thank goodness it worked out okay. But the tax credits were a big part of that. And you know, the SHPA, State Historic Preservation Office, and the National Park Service were extraordinarily helpful to usher me along, to where I could learn what I was doing. And once we got out of that one alive and decided this is something that will be highly impactful for our town. And what our goal was then, as it still is, we wanted a downtown that was not 1/3 vacant. It was a third vacant when I moved here. And we wanted, not counting the mills, it was a third vacant, the storefront. So these big residential projects help prop up the downtown with strong residential surrounding it.
The younger generation has a different outlook about what they're looking at with housing. They are looking for more apartment dwellings, condos with amenities. They're less interested than my generation was of trying to have that house with a half-acre yard or whatever else. So it's going to be incumbent on us to invest in the downtown and create these vibrant, livable communities that will attract young people, because it's going to be the young people that are going to make our community vibrant and last a long time, because they'll want to invest in the future of our city.
Housing in a downtown district is huge. I think traditionally downtown districts in small towns like Mount Airy were thought of as just the central business district. And now we think of our downtown as a second neighborhood and a first neighborhood for a lot of people. We have gained 88 housing units in our downtown. More than 150 new people live in our downtown district. That is huge for Mount Airy. They're spending more than $2.5 million in and around our downtown annually. So it's important for us to invest in public spaces so that it isn't just a sidewalk, but they've got a nice pocket park, they've got an arts district, they can happen upon things that make their neighborhood unique. And that's where cities can play a role. In Mount Airy, we have the Whittling Wall, highlighting local heroes, not necessarily famous people, but local heroes who gave back to their community. We've got Market Street with all of the great nightlife amenities, Melvis Alley, Canteen Alley, lots of great little pockets of space that downtown residents can enjoy. And that's so important.
Here, let's talk about this building we're in today. This was the Spencer's Babywear office and part of their mill. And we're in the attic right now. This was just an attic of an old factory. I purchased this building for $18,000. It was on the tax books for $18,000, I guess, or less. And I spent about $4,700,000 on it. And the tax value, that's the tax value of it. It has 16 residential units that sold for, I think I mentioned, between $250,000 and $500,000, and owner-occupied residential. It was an extraordinarily difficult building. This building was not in good shape. So this is the hardest one. It's not the biggest, but it's definitely the hardest one we've ever done because we had so many structural issues. But it was important. This building was a part of this large Spencer complex, and we realized that nothing would happen across the street with the hotel unless this building looked good.
The Spencer's Mill project is being done in 3 phases, hopefully 3 phases. We might have to break up phase 3 a little bit depending on funding for that. But phase 1 was housing, added residential to our downtown. It started with the Spencer's Loft condos. Gene completed those in 2017, 16 beautiful units. They were pre-sold before he ever started construction, which is typical with Gene's work. He'll have people willing to put down quite a large deposit just knowing what his reputation is. That was followed by the Spencer's Mill apartments. Those were completed in May of 2020. 65 apartments. They were full within 5 months, and they have a 20-person wait list still to this day. We're really thankful for all of that work on phase 1 and for the city's investment in infrastructure on phase 1 as well. Phase 2 is underway now. That is for a boutique hotel and market center and an event center. So that is a project that we've been hoping for and working on for a long time. We're in a pre-construction phase. The city is doing infrastructure work on Willow Street now for that. Of course, you know, it takes a while to get everything ready for a Part 2 submittal. I think we're almost there. And then hopefully we will see some significant movement there on site with the hotel later this fall. Of course, we're always planning, you know, five years ahead. So we needed to go ahead and have planning documents for phase 3. That involves the Cube building behind the Dye House and then also the Cube Annex and the property surrounding it. So what we're planning for is a conference center that will have also opportunity for educational facility classrooms. It will include a cafe. It will include large museum exhibit space in the lower level, all sorts of conferences and meetings hosting 300 to 500 people will be wonderful for there, and I think that we can support that with our niche market and being downtown. And then on the site for phase 3, we're planning for a multi-purpose farmers market facility, a nice granite splash pad featuring our Mount Airy granite, sculpture garden featuring materials found in the building and honoring the history of the site, an event lawn, a kids play space. We're going to build that out to really benefit local citizens, but also to be a draw to both the hotel and to the new conference center. So we've got plans underway for that site, and we'll be working on it for a few more years.
The project that we're working on now, which of course the next phase is the hotel, the travel tourism center, and the convention center. I think it's not only transformative, but it's a once-in-a-generation project for a town our size. For a town of just short of 11,000 people, it's a rather significant undertaking to build a first-rate, top-shelf name hotel and also have the ability to pull off a 50,000 square foot convention center and all the amenities that are necessary with that. So we think it's significant going forward for our community, both from a quality of life standpoint, but also economically. It's going to make a big difference for us.
Phase 2 with the hotel, that is going to be at least a $15 million investment between the hotel, the market center, and the Barrel building. Of course, inflation is happening, prices of materials are rising. So it could be more. We think that the tax value will be between 11 to 12 million, which will make a huge impact both for our municipal service district tax and for the city of Mount Airy. Phase 3, we've kind of labeled that to be determined. We'll build out to budget, but I think phase 3 is an $18 million project, somewhere in there, if we were to get everything that we wanted. All together with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, it's about a $55 to $60 million investment in our downtown, which is huge. And the large majority of that is private investment. On phase 1 and phase 2, the city and county's investment has been about 17% of the project. The incremental occupancy tax revenues from the hotel alone will be around $200,000 a year. So we'll be able to finance a lot of phase 3 through the incremental revenues from the hotel project.
The Historic Tax Credit Program has so much assistance from so many areas. Folks are scared to death of it. They think it's over their head. They don't understand it. That's too complicated. It will make them do things they don't want to do otherwise. None of that's true. I'm convinced that the best assistance and probably the most fun assistance that the State Historic Preservation Office has is the mom and pop hardware store owner who wants to rehabilitate their one building. And they get the same level of assistance as this $15 million hotel that we're working on. And they will get a finished product that will make their building more valuable if they did not use or did not follow the design guidelines from the National Park Service. But it is a scary process, and some towns and some property owners think it's over their head, but it's absolutely, the historic preservation guidelines guide you to do the type of preservation that you'd always want to do anyway. You just didn't know what's right and wrong.
Our city believes in investing in the downtown because of the return. We invest in many ways. We invest mostly in infrastructure, but not exclusively infrastructure. And when I speak of infrastructure, I'm speaking of curb and gutter, water, sewer, storm drainage, and things like that. We have done that rather extensively, and in every case, it has been done with a measured approach. And in every case, it has exceeded the expectations and the return on that investment.
Our city today is putting new water, sewer, and stormwater down the street we're standing on. And I don't know what they're going to spend, $1 million, let's say, maybe not quite $1 million in this water and sewer. Well, every 200 feet they go, there's $10 million of property value. You compare that city investment with having to go out to a neighborhood, every 200 feet they go buy a house that's $175,000 or $275,000. So the efficiency of the city's investment for infrastructure is probably a factor of 10 or 20 for them to invest public money to help assist private investment in a downtown because you have such concentrated property values. You know, for example, our property values on this block we're standing on are $5, $6, and $7, and $8 million per acre of displaced land. So it doesn't take a lot of city infrastructure to support a massive amount of property tax. And so it's a very efficient development for the city. From the state standpoint, the state provides tax credits to these developers like me, and we have calculated on every project. I keep up with all our, expenses, obviously, for tax credit calculation, but we also keep up with the sales volume and the payroll activity of the businesses, because I retain all these buildings to rent to. The state of North Carolina, from day one, the first time we swing a hammer, they recover and within a 5-year period, they get $6.35 on average in hard money back through payroll and sales, and their share of the sales tax for every dollar of tax credits they issue to the developer. Our city actually probably has the worst investment. They just get property tax back and a little piece of the sales tax, but they get the economic activity. The county, again, they get the property tax and a big piece of the sales tax. So every single participant in a project that doesn't require heavy local subsidies, the municipality, the county, the state, the developer, and even the business owner who rents, everybody wins on these kind of developments. On the residential side, the apartments who opened up here, 66 historic apartments, loft apartments downtown, their rents are 50% higher than their original projections were. The condominiums I built down here in a little town of 10,000 people sold from $250,000 to $500,000 in Mount Airy. We're finishing a Coca-Cola bottling plant right now. We have some residential up top, commercial down, and I'm gonna rent them for 5 years. They're apartments renting for $2,000 a month in our little town. And again, we're in Mount Airy at the town, but that wouldn't happen without the buildings being rehabilitated in a very high quality manner. But it allows the economics of the deal to work. A historic redevelopment in terms of the long-term health of the town, the appeal to tourists in your town, the visual image of your town when people drive through, it's night and day from a town that's not followed the federal guidelines for historic preservation. There's a high level of encouragement and assistance to help our property owners rehabilitate their buildings in a manner that's consistent with the National Park Service standards, because we want our town to look good. We want people to want to live here. We don't want them living here. We don't want them working in Winston, living in Winston, and driving up here just to work. We want them living here, going to Market Street on the weekends, shopping in our downtowns, and paying a lot of property tax and sales tax. And one way to get to there is to have a town that people desire and want to live in. And I would say the tax paid on this building prior to the city and MSD tax together, there's 80 cents roughly. So it would be Well, say $18,000, say $20,000 times 80 cents, $160, I guess. And the tax bill now is $25,000.
Phase 2 should generate more than $10.6 million in additional tax revenues over 10 years for the city and county combined. So when we were talking to them about what kind of investment they would make, the return is quick. You know, the bottom line makes sense to them, but also the community benefits, you know, made all the sense in the world. And preserving this historic site made sense to them as well.
Downtown revitalization is not just about making things look pretty. Yes, it helps to have great design, and it helps to have a vibrant downtown where people want to shop and visit and play, but you know, having people living downtown, having 33 building rehabilitations, and taking on a few giant redevelopment projects like this one, that provides a long-term benefit, and it's more than just property and sales tax. There's a lot of quality of life benefits that are hard to quantify, but I think some of the companies here, the executives in their recruitment, they recognize that. So it's a combination of looking at what you can measure and talking to the city and the county about incremental property taxes, incremental sales taxes, but then painting a bigger picture, and that gets to having great design assistance like we do through Main Street, having a strong organization with good volunteers who are committed. It gets to promoting and having events, but you know, that's maybe frosting on the cake, I think.
The investment in our downtown is crucial. And I would say this to all other cities and mayors. Residential development and commercial development in our and around our core downtown area has far exceeded every other sector of commercial, industrial, or residential property outside of the downtown. And it has been a game changer for our community.
My philosophy, personal philosophy, is to follow the Main Street four-point approach. Whether you are a North Carolina Main Street community or a community just getting started, you can use that four-point approach of organization, economic vitality, design, and promotion to really kickstart things in your downtown. And we joined in 2013, and NC Commerce sent a team up here to help us evaluate what we needed to be doing. 5 different properties who wanted to improve their properties but weren't quite sure where to begin. They knew to reach out to the Main Street program, and we met with them. We talked through what the historic tax credit process would be like, and they said, okay, let's do it. So then the next tool that we used was through the North Carolina Main Street Center, the UNCG Main Street Fellows. Main Street offers free design assistance and services, and every Main Street community should be taking advantage of that. So next we use those services. They send back a free design on what you can do to comply with National Park Service standards for historic rehabilitation, and then we use that as a guide. We'll put them in touch with the right people who can help them with their tax credit applications. We'll hold their hand all the way through. If they've got a question on something they've discovered in the building, we'll run down there, look at it, give them advice. If we don't know, we'll call the State Historic Preservation Office on their behalf. We'll get the answers for them, and we'll make sure that they feel confident in the process. We've seen almost $30 million in private investment in our downtown district alone. Our municipal service district tax base has increased by $20 million. We've got 8 murals in our downtown now, lots of sculptures and public art projects. We have an art and entertainment district. We've seen 33 building rehabilitations. We've seen 81 facades redone. When we joined the Main Street program, we didn't have any breweries. We now have 2 with another bar on the way, cute little wine shop. We've gained 5 new restaurants offering different cuisines than we had before. Lots of great retail. We owe that to the roadmap that NC Main Street gave us.
Since being here for a long time and being the tourism director since 2004, I have noticed a shift since joining the Main Street program. We have buildings that are no longer empty on Main Street. We've seen lots of buildings that have gotten great facelifts that have been redone, revitalization, big investments in our downtown area since joining the Main Street program.
We have a little committee that mentors and guides property owners from step one to step finished. And I guess as much as anything else, I think we've had a number of both historic and non-historic rehabilitations downtown that have occurred because they look at other property owners like myself and others who've done it a little earlier. They have confidence because we have confidence. So it's important for the property owners that want to venture down the path of rehabilitating their building and to use tax credits to help in that process. The town gets a better result, number one. The building is rehabilitated in an appropriate manner, number two, and the economics of the investment are vastly better than not using the tax credits.
And I truly believe that if you're not preserving these buildings, if you're not taking care of them, they will crumble eventually. So it's so important to lean into the resources at the state level with the State Historic Preservation Office, with the North Carolina Main Street and Rural Planning Center, to lean into your local resources and to lean into a community that cares to make sure that you're preserving your historic buildings.
So the things municipalities should do, in my view, if they're not quite as far along as we are, municipal service district tax, join the Main Street program, and get a National Register district. Contact the SHPO office and the Rural Planning Center office and have a long time horizon. You know, this doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't take 5 years, 10 years. This takes a generation, but the formula works. And North Carolina is one of the success stories in the country with how historic preservation works, and the relationship between the Preservation of North Carolina and the Historic Preservation Office and the other departments of commerce, that the fact they all have their shoulder to the same wheel makes our life in these little communities much easier, that all these groups work together, the state agencies work together.
I think perseverance comes up and nothing goes according to plan, but that doesn't mean you don't need a plan. That just means you need a good plan that can be modified from time to time. And if you can involve your citizens in carefully restoring parts of your community, they are going to appreciate it. And even if they don't fully acknowledge sort of the long-term economic development benefits, they will appreciate what you're doing, and there'll just be greater community spirit. And maybe it's a challenge sometimes for civic leaders to figure out how to convince people about all aspects of what we're trying to do with historic preservation, with downtown development. But you know, making an effort and having people share in a successful redevelopment it goes a long way. It's one of those maybe hard to quantify, but you definitely feel the passion and the energy when you've successfully accomplished it.
Change can be scary for people. Even good change is scary sometimes. It needs to be explained, it needs to be gone over, it needs to be education, you need to have programs, you need to have forums and things like that. And what I hope in most of those is that I can be the cheerleader to get other people excited about what I see the potential of what our community can be. And when you do that and you get them involved and get them involved with ideas and they feel they're part of it, that process builds momentum for making things able to happen.
The impact of downtown Mount Airy's success on the greater Mount Airy community is huge. We've seen a lot of investment happening within 1 mile of our downtown district. I think it's giving confidence for private investment all over Mount Airy. They see a healthy downtown and you know the community is healthy. Downtown's impact on greater Mount Airy is just giving everyone the feel that we are on an upward trajectory.
You know, the Main Street and Rural Planning Center, they'll give you a playbook. The State Historic Preservation Office, they will give you a playbook. And you know, this stuff's not complicated. You know, the challenge is for a town, you take those tools that the State Historic Preservation Office gives you, that the Rural Planning Center gives you, and you take those tools, and again, that's your playbook, and then you search out in your community. You hire your Main Street, don't hire Lizzie Morrison, but you hire your Main Street director who's a fourth as good as she is, and you will have a gigantic success over the next 20 years.
Investing in the things that preserve our history and make sense financially in terms of what they mean and the amenities they bring to your community are absolutely vital.